your kids. As long as when the check came, they got first dibs. Now when this belly's getting bigger, but no one seems to know the city changing a figure. Since 12 years old, this is having a baby.
Good morning, Fantasy Blitz team members. I hope everyone is having an outstanding Wednesdays thus far. I know Chuck and I are getting down to some Tupac. That's how we like to start our days. Just us, maybe not you, but that's how we like to roll. So everyone, I would like to, again, thank you for hanging out with us here for the next half hour as we go through and highlight, some of the comings and goings in Fantasy Blitz. So today, of course, we're going to mix things up just a little bit. We had previously, what were we doing previously, Chuck? We're going over the scores, and what are we looking to do today?
Yeah, so previously, 2 weeks is a trend. So we would go over the scores and then looking ahead, and then we have our power rankings, our top three. Today, we are still going to highlight one of the games that caught our attention. But really, we're going to hand out some warning signs. There's a couple of teams we want to throw out some warning signs that if they don't make changes quickly, they could be in very trouble. So we're gonna give some constructive feedback, if you will, to these teams. And then finally kick off to finalize the show. We're going to talk about looking ahead. And there are some games that we want to kind of make sure we highlight because there's some very special games for sure.
I agree. Obviously, we're here on a mission of mercy. And what really we hope is that some of those owners really turn it around here. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. But without further ado, Chuck, let's go ahead and get back and take a very brief look at what we experienced here across the league last week. And I know that we each had a game that we wanted to call out and take a look just to see how things came together. For you, it was, the Cooper Troopers. That was a story again for you this week. Is that right, Chuck?
It sure was. Chrissy's got a very strong team, and she's probably the greatest GM to never win a title. I'm gonna give her that title right there. Greatest GM not to win the big one yet. But this team looks a lot like her other teams where she has a great start, great regular season. It's gonna be really coming down to can she finish it through the playoffs. And Matt's one of the greatest GMs ever. He has 3 titles, and he lost last week in bad fashion to Louis. And so I didn't think Matt would lose 2 in a row or at least put up a good fight. So I was very interested to see a strong team like Cooper, who was also main event your number 1 team in week 1 when we did this showcase. So if there was ever time to beat Christy in the Cooper Troopers, it was this past week. She only scored low 80s. I think it was 82 points. And Kyler Murray led the team with 23. And not much after that. Cooper Kupp, pedestrian 13 for him, which, that you'll take that every week when you're playing her. And Kyle Pitts still not really finding his groove. Very popular tight end to begin the year. He's got maybe 15 catches altogether throughout the year. But Matty Cakes. He did not show up back-to-back weeks, back-to-back 50-point games. Last week against Louis had 5 players under 5 points or less. Same theme. 5 players under 5 points or less. Bateman, I don't know. He likes Bateman for some reason, keeping him in, but he's not producing. Jalen Hurts, when Jalen goes, Matt goes. He didn't go. 16 points, which is not good. But I'll give Matt this. It was nice to see Dobbins getting in the end zone a couple of times. 18 points for JK. And other than that, not much else. Matt will probably kick himself. I'm going to call it out. Starting Dolphins D over his Eagles D. Ooh, I don't know. Eagles are the real deal. I'm not sure about the Dolphins. And 1 point for the Dolphins D, 15 for the Eagles. So that's got to burn a little bit. But
yeah, I don't think I agree with you, Chuck. I don't think it would have moved the needle enough. But again, you would think a triple champ like Matt Carrico would know, hey, going into a Thursday night game, I'm not going to start a road defense.
Yeah.
That's what we did here, and what a shock with the one burger that he put up there. So, definitely a misstep. And obviously, he has this Ferrari on his team. I love Ferraris; they're amazing, but they're always broken. They're always in the shop, and that's where we find DeAndre Swift these days, right?
Yeah, he's right where we knew he'd be, right in the IR.
Yeah. Well, a tough break for Christie with Cordell Patterson going on the IR. I don't think it was a season-ending IR. I think it's just the 4 to 5 week version. But when you got Miles Sanders and Christian Kirk, just waiting behind in the wings, it certainly makes things a little easier. So, a great perspective there, Chuck. It pains me to do this, but I'm really going to give you some props here for my, for the GM start of the week.
Ooh.
Just absolutely brilliant. TJ Hawkinson, you're stacked at the tight end position. I'll tell you this shocks me about you. I don't understand why you don't start multiple tight ends in your flex spot. I don't know why you choose not to do that. You're like, you have these things, but hey, it worked out last week. Well, I guess not so much. I mean, they only got they got you a couple of deuces here, but certainly maybe an option for you to consider in the future because you're so deep there. But boy, what a start with knowing that Amon-Ra isn't going to play. Isn't going to produce. TJ goes in there, fills the gap, and what does that do? That just wins you the game for the week, and that's again this young upstart TJ, very close. My man would have been 4-0. Really, I mean, he just got a little bit unlucky against the Vatican, and frankly, other than your momentary brilliance there with TJ Hawkinson, which if you didn't do that. And I wonder, by the way, if you weren't a Detroit Lions fan, if you would have been able to had the gumption to do that. But you did, so you get credit for it. So it's just interesting.
Thank you, Puppy.
And good job. And you're 2-2 and right in the thick of things. So again, kudos to you. Keep fighting there, TJ. You're definitely making a strong impression here with really, from my perspective, as a ragtag team, but. You're pulling it off, and Edwards-Helaire is certainly, I think, the engine for this team at the moment. So kudos to you, sir.
And TJ would be 4-0 if he didn't go up against me and you. We're the only two to give him a loss each, so he has us to thank for his 2-2 record.
And yes, you were incredibly smart, and I was incredibly lucky. And so that's your genius and my luck is all that's standing from him in first place at the moment.
And I actually, Popey, to give you thoughts on, I was going to do 2 tight ends. I was going to do Hawkinson and Kittle, just for the fact that they both have long blonde hair, and it would have looked nice next to each other on the fantasy score chart with their pictures of the long blonde hair next to each other.
Infinitely reasonable. So, again, those are to the league. This is just something that we thought we wanted to point out. Again, these were games that we thought were interesting to us at a personal level. And so I know we said we're going to look ahead here to see what's coming up next week, but boy, really, when you start to look at the standings a little bit, the good news here for the league is that, oh boy, is it still early. As a reminder, 8 teams get to go on to the promised land, 8 out of the 14 move on to the playoffs. So, we do have a couple behind the 8 ball. I know that I was concerned about, you were a little concerned about as well. Is there any team here, Chuck, that you're looking at that is where the alarm bells are going off for you?
Yeah, actually the alarm is going off really loud for our defending champion, Danny. Pickens my nose. He's 1-3. He's getting ready to play my preseason #1 champ Samson, looking at a 1-4 start. He's already 3 games out of first place with Christie 4-0. If he doesn't turn things around very quickly, he could be on the outside looking in. I don't think he's going to make the playoffs this year. Problem he has is he now has the curse of Russell Wilson. He gladly took him off my hands. What does Russell Wilson do? He performs on Danny's bench while Danny leaves in Derek Carr. So he's going to have to juggle his AFC West quarterbacks and hope he picks right going forward. But the biggest concern that I have with Danny is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook does not look like the Dalvin Cook of his rookie year. The guy just, I'll be honest, Madison looks better. When Madison's in, he's more of a pass catching threat. He runs strong. Cook does a little dancing behind the line, but can't break through. He had one that he almost broke through, got tripped up. So we almost saw a Dalvin Cook of old. But as Dalvin goes, so does Danny. I don't see it. I think Madison's going to continue to bite into his shares of carry. Deontay Johnson now has a rookie quarterback throwing to him with Pickett. Yeah. He's going to have some very rookie woes. Sorry, tongue twister there. And does he bring in George Pickens? Does Danny take the chance of bringing in George Pickens? But look at the team. Curtis Samuel, not good. Khalil Herbert, rookie running back on the Bears. That just sounds nasty,
there's
right?
No pop here. There's no pop here. Yeah, there's no one here that I'm like. Cook is always. I know it's a little bit of a down year right now, but he's the only one on this team that is that could threaten 20 in any given week. And it's. And by the way, boy, what a terrible blow to have. Keenan Allen's been struggling with injuries here since the beginning of the season. That has not helped out Danny at all whatsoever. And even then, the Chargers look a little off. Now, I know that Will was the beneficiary, got that first win this week, where the Chargers looked right. And it'll be interesting here because I'll tell you, Danny has a chance, to at least get some points on a Keenan. I assure you that secondary in Cleveland is quite soft. And if Myles Garrett is still, dealing with the Porsche crash and Jadeveon Clowney still sits out, Justin Herbert's going to throw that ball all day this week. So, hopefully Danny is able to get Keenan on the field and into that lineup and with a chance to get right. All right. Well, I know for me, I always enjoy this. And so I love it when team owners embody who they are. When they have that name that really like what they're all about. And, I don't know if, he does this on purpose this year, but Ted DiBiase, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, the $1 Million Man. And boy, does everybody got a price. That's on my warning radar right now. I love how Mike said, oh, yeah, that number 1 pick's not for sale. He gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. Gave you an offer you couldn't refuse for the number 2 pick overall. And he got exactly what he wanted. He found the price for me and for you, Chuck. But unfortunately, that just has not translated into much. On paper, hey, you would think that Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Pat Mahomes is enough to drive, to really drive the score. You think like, hey, I'm getting 50 to 60 points out of those every week. That just hasn't been the case. Jonathan Taylor, quite frankly, is start off to a great start. Mediocre sense. What really scares me is, hey, yes, the yardage was there. Oops, where did my stats go? Yes, the yardage was there. And, the productivity there at 5 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry. But you can tell really, especially at home, where they've decided, you can see that the defenses are reacting and saying, Matt Ryan's not putting that ball down the field. And they are stacking the box. And you can see here, 3 yards, 2 yards a carry, just not to overcome that. See, it's within him. He's got to hit that waiver wire. There is at least 1 or 2 receivers that he should be focused on this week. So I'll be interesting to see if he can make a move and do something here to bring some pop. But man, you're not winning many games with Nico Collins and as one of your primary weapons. So we'll see. Maybe also we move Jared Goff here, bud. This is the one place on your team that you have depth, and it's the one place on the team that you don't need it. So boy, you better be, maybe Pat Mahomes is easier to trade. And you're going to have to go balls deep there with with Jared Goff. But I don't know what else you can do. Need to find some receivers. So that is Mikey. Again, still plenty of time to turn things around, but just
Kofi,
not
can
trending
I
in the right direction.
say something real quick about Mikey?
Yeah.
Ted DiBiase. Everybody's got a price.
That's right.
And JP, if I told you, when you think of the Lions fantasy players on offense, you think of Hawkinson, you think of Swift, you think of St. Brown. You don't think of DJ Shark or Quintez Cephas or Jared Goff. Mikey B has 3 Lions on his team, not named Hawk, St. Brown, or Swift.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a price.
Except those no-name Lions that are on his team. He's got to find a better alternative there. But yeah, it's great call outs. So with that, let's look ahead here a little. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to call this out. This schedule doesn't get that easy. I know he has some games coming up here. Andy's been, I know, underwhelming from a schedule perspective, but that team's actually good. He's solved his kicker problem. TJ's at Coop and Lou's he's not a pushover either at 1 and 3. Oh, it's going to be tough here. But we'll see how he does this week. So we did want to go ahead and look at the league scoreboard here for week 5 and talk about some matchups. And so is there one that what's the first one you want to chat about here today?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is the biggest one of the week, the Berlin Bowl. We have young Berlin versus old Berlin. And a matchup of 3-1 Lil Giants versus 1-3. Everybody's got a price. We were just speaking about Mikey B. I'm gonna give you a quick analogy. When they both joined Fantasy Blitz, it was almost like Venus Williams and Serena Williams. Venus was the better pro, but who ended up being the long-term better prospect? Serena. Young Berlin is Serena Williams. He couldn't do anything early, but you know what? He might end up being the greatest Berlin in fantasy football. So super excited to see the Berlin Bowl and how that takes shape.
Yeah, make or break week here. Obviously Jace has a chance to really stick it to the older brother. And I assure you, I know how much the younger brothers love to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure there's some side action on this game as well. I guarantee it. There's some side action. So we'll see, what occurs here. Boy, this Q next to Jonathan Taylor makes me nervous. Hopefully that's not too big of a deal there. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. Some good matchups here. A lot.
Even Vegas has it as
well.
a pick 'em.
Yeah.
84.
Sure.
Even Vegas has a pick 'em. They don't know who to give the nod to.
Yeah, well, let's take a look here. We had talked about TJ off to a good start, as I had mentioned there previously. It looks to be a tough matchup this week. Nick Chubb is just running the ball. That's the one thing they've been able to do in Cleveland this year, is just run the rock. So Joe Burrow is looking like he's starting to find some footholds here as well. Again, Aaron Rodgers, amazing, fantastic talent, but boy, he's from a fantasy perspective, his production's fallen off. Yes, it's a solid 15 every week, but sometimes you'll more. But hey, TJ has earned the benefit of the doubt at this point. I got to tell you, now that looks like he has a kick, Andy has a kicker, I'm feeling really good about here. I have to go with Vegas on this line. This to me looks like, boy, he's even got DeAndre Hopkins coming back here at some time soon. There are some real possibilities here for Andy. Got to figure something out.
Yeah, if he didn't get the win, I was gonna actually put in a trade request for Hopkins and try and steal him off a 0-4 team. But Andy got a win. He might go 2 in a row. With Higgins now starting to get some attention from Burrow, so that Burrow-Higgins connection is looking really nice. Chubb's Chubb. I mean, that guy was #1 pick last year, and he's still a top 10 running back in this league. Then we'll see what Team Rant does with his running backs with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Najee. Helaire can be all or nothing for him, so it's gonna be an exciting game for sure.
I agree. And again, this is for me probably the woulda. If that was the the Battle of the Berlins, this is the woulda coulda bowl. TJ very easily, like we said earlier, could be 4-0. Andy Gorman very easily could be 3-1. So just a battle of inches each and every week for sure. So moving on, another interesting matchup. This is a close one this week. We have Bart taking on the Guardians here once again. Guardians had a tough loss last week. Their team showed up, but just wasn't quite enough. At first glance, yeah, Dallas probably going to eat Matthew Stafford for lunch. So reasonable to expect 15 points there, but going up against Kirk Cousins makes me I'm a little shocked actually to see the Vikings playing this week. I thought that like after you played in London that you get a bye week after that automatically. Apparently that's not the case anymore. So I'm wondering how Minnesota is going to react after those long flights, if that's a big deal or not. I don't know. Obviously the receiver combination is phenomenal. And you can tell if you look to see who the top receivers are, that's who has the most wins in the league this year. It's been the receiver spot. So when you have a #1 overall in Stephen Diggs, Justin Jefferson, you're going to do well. Josh Jacobs finally starting to show up here too, but it's going to be a coin flip.
And look who the Guardians put in at running back. Hamondre Stevenson, New England running back rookie, or second year I think actually. But look who he's playing. The Detroit Lions at home. I mean, that could be the move that makes the game.
Historically bad defense in Detroit. So now they do have a great offense. They've been in every game eventually, but it's I would say, oh, is that a spot start? Of course, it is the Heck and Vic projection that's what he should be doing here. But yeah, it's a great matchup, and boy, what if you could exploit your Lions? I think you should do that in fantasy football right now. They're just giving it up quicker than a single mother over 40.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, well, we'll see what happens here. We'll flip a coin on this one too, though. It is really close. I know we talked about this here. Your preseason favorite, Champ Sampson, finally going to earn that moniker. Looks like he's off to a good start here. I like Saquon, AJ Brown. Kamara's been a little slow, but you think he's going to bounce back? Is that right?
Yeah, I like Kamara. I mean, when I watch the guy play, he is truly one of the best running backs when it comes for vision, acceleration, breaking tackles. The guy is just a great running back. Can he stay healthy? He's swift as a poor man's Kamara, right? They get hurt, but Kamara is much better talent-wise. I love Kamara. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a huge part of the offense. I would say Kamara and Deebo Samuel are the two players in my mind that are like 90% of that team's offense. And so if Kamara can get right, big things for Sampson. Absolutely.
Yeah, boy, I'm looking at this. I know Jake's the primitive favorite here. I mean, it's very rare to get like a projected getting it close to 90. And here he is at 88 projected. So that tells me he's got great matchups this week. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, I don't know where the pop is coming from. And Danny, I think for Danny to win, one of these position players for him is going to need to go off for 20 plus points this week. He can't just get that like plotting average. I got 8 or 9 from everybody. Like he needs someone to show up with a multiple touchdown game. So
if I'm Danny, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm benching Khalil Herbert on the road against Minnie, and I'm bringing in another Pittsburgh receiver, George Pickens. I mean, the guy's the mascot on the team for Christ's sakes. Throw him in there with Deontay Johnson and see what Kenny Pickett can do. Maybe he'll throw a lot of interceptions, but he might throw a lot of yards playing from behind in Buffalo. So maybe Danny takes this advice, and the defending champ puts in Pickens over Herbert. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. It'll be interesting to see. And as we move on here, of course, our the team that we like the most, I think and obviously now they stand alone at 4-0 is Christy Bart, and those going up against Team Punishment this week, and this is oh boy, it's an even line. And Louis, this is another one we got to find a way to win here. It's don't want to get to 0-4, 1-4, and that unfortunately that could be very easy to do against Christie's group here. Obviously, Lamar Jackson has been phenomenal. This game here is a Sunday night prime time Lamar. That tells me he could go off considerably. I think when the lights shine on Lamar is when you get the best effort out of him. So that could be a huge game, and give Louis a chance here. Christian McCaffrey starting to get back together again. I was a little concerned after week 1, after week 2, but he's really turned up a notch. Him and Baker starting to click a little bit. I know DK's reasonable as long as he doesn't have to take a shit in the middle of the game, and they don't have to cart him off the field to get that done. He's usually pretty. I like seeing that we got Chris Godwin back in the roster here. I know he's been banged up already this year, but so far so good. So should be an interesting effort here from Lou. Anything here on Christie's side that you like or don't like?
Well, I'm gonna say this. This is my upset pick of the week. I think Lou is gonna go 2-3. I think he's gonna give Christie her first loss. Look for big things out of DK. Look for a multiple touchdown event out of DK. And the reason why I know this is going to happen is because I had an 8-player parlay, had DK scored a touchdown, and he did not score a touchdown in a 48-45 game against the Lions. Had he scored a touchdown, my $12 8-player parlay would have turned into $12,000. You heard that right. Because DK Metcalf did not get in the end zone. So what did that tell me? Because of my bad luck, DK is going to score twice, just throw it in my face, saying, yes, he still knows how to score touchdowns. Look for a big game out of DK. Look for a big game out of Christian McCaffrey in a low under-over game against the Niners, and then look for Lamar to have a huge game as well against Cincy and a division rival. As far as Christie is concerned, I think Kyler's gonna have a good game against the Eagles at home. I'm picking the Cardinals to win in an upset over Philly, giving them a loss. And then the struggle I see is Fournette. I don't see Fournette doing much. Cooper Kupp's going to get back on track, but Dallas is still going to be stingy. Dallas D. Kyle Pitts may do some things, but I'm giving this one, not that Chrissy's not going to show up. I just think Louis' team's going to show up this week. So I'm going to give you a score prediction, Popey. I'm going to say Louis 111, Christy 92.
Wow. Okay. A lot of points coming from these teams. It should be interesting to see. I'm wondering at some point, does Mariota unlock Kyle Pitts? We haven't seen it yet. So it'll be interesting to see if that does come together here in the end. Now, I know that we don't want to spend too much time talking about ourselves. That is probably in poor form, but so you're looking forward next week. You are the underdog up against a Team Darkness here. Will getting his first win last week. Tom Brady showing up big. Obviously, Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously doing, finally waking up last week. It'll be interesting here. Obviously, that's a big matchup against the Browns this week. We'll see how things go. Generally speaking, I don't recommend starting kickers in the unfriendly winds off of Lake Erie, especially in around October. Things start to swirl a little tiny bit. So as the weather changes, so that may not be wise, but and also it may not be wise because I think the Chargers are scoring a lot of touchdowns this week. But we'll see how that comes together. I know you got a big bump out of Gino and your ragtag group of upstarts here. It'll be interesting. Gabe Davis, I think, has been quiet here in recent weeks. I don't think, he sat out a 3 and a 1 burger. It'll be interesting to see here if that's he ends up getting the start or not. And we do have Waller and Kittle and some other. I like that you have Drake London. I like that player quite a bit as well. I didn't know that he was on your roster. So any thoughts, anything here that makes you nervous when you look across the aisle at Williams' team?
Yeah, well, one, he started Tom Brady for the first time in 3 weeks, and he got the win. So if he keeps him in as starting quarterback, I think that's going to bode well for Will. Brady can erupt. We know that about him. Yeah, the Chargers on the road against Cleveland. I'm hoping the 80 Cleveland defense from the 1980s comes and shows up, Popey, so we can shut that offense down. I don't know. I'm going to be a big Browns fan this weekend. Terry McLaurin, the guy's just a gamer, undersized wide receiver, just knows how to get open, great hands. He's going to do some damage against me. But what I do like is he has Logan Thomas in there. So there's only one ball. Yeah. So I don't see huge fireworks out of the Washington, Tennessee game. So I think I'm going to be okay there. Zeke, I'll be okay with 10 points from him. And then Bengals D and Hopkins, it is what it is. Pope, you said I'm not favored. I don't think I've been favored all year long. I think all my team's been.
Oh, there's good reason for that, Chuck. I mean, your team's not that good.
On the flip side, on my team, yeah, I got a lot of decisions to make because, like I said, can I go Kittle Hawk back-to-back tight end flex? I mean, that will happen sometime this year. I will have both of them in at the same time. I just don't know if this is the week to do it. Kareem Hunt at home.
My question for you is this: how many points do you need to score to win this week
against Will? Well,
yeah,
I love Will, but I think I need to score at least 80.
Okay, you think 80 gets the job done? Okay.
I think 80 gets the job done.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens here. If we say 80 gets the job done, let's is the Black Tekamaki? Oh yeah, Black is Team Darkness. Okay. Yeah, well, that would seem to be the case. He obviously spiked there at 95 this last week, but yeah, looks like that does seem to be the magic number there for Will. But we'll see if he can turn things around. I know, like I said, Chargers has been a little underwhelming, but they really showed up last week. So we'll see what happens, and clearly will. I'll be rooting for you this weekend. So that brings us, of course, over to the mighty Vatican City. Again, going into a matchup against, a main event participant, one of the other triple champ here. Really, the only thing that has me totally spooked is Jalen Hurts. The man can go off. Now, I do have a nice counter for that in Josh Allen. So I am feeling pretty good. The one thing, of course, is DeAndre Swift, because I know that Lions offense is no joke this year. And so I'm begging that this Ferrari stays locked up in the garage here for at least another week before, I have to deal with them. And it'll be interesting. I would probably start the Eagles D against Arizona instead of working with the Dolphins this week, but it'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do. I'm just not a fan. I don't believe in the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Ugh, they've had, I think, 2 good quarters this year, and that's
Well,
been it.
Matt told me he would never bench the Eagles D ever again over the Dolphins. So maybe he just hasn't got a chance to see his team yet. But as of now,
That's
you're
a good
right.
point.
He has the Dolphins D in. Even though they are projected higher, does Matt listen to ESPN like Louis, or does Matt think for himself and stay hold to his word of, I'm never going to start the Dolphins D over the Eagles?
Yeah.
We'll see.
And for me, starting this week, my roster is optimized at the moment. And, slightly controversial. I don't know that you can say that, but I am going with Waddle over Debo this week, just based off the matchup. I don't like the fact San Francisco has to fly all the way over into the Eastern time. And again, that Carolina defense is pretty darn good, and Jimmy isn't quite amazing. So I'm thinking that might be an opportunity there for me to bench one of my top picks and to fill in Waddle, see how he does against that Jets secondary. I'm pretty confident. For me, I'm thinking that 85 gets the job done this week. I think J.K. Dobbins, I told you, I think this Baltimore team is going to flash in Sunday night with the lights on. So for me, I think Matt's going to outperform at least this early estimate, and I'm going to at least need 85 to cash the victory. So, but
I think Swift being questionable could be a game changer one way or another. I don't see him doing much though at New England. Even if he is healthy, they might give him another week of rest. But Popey, yeah, I mean, I got to hand it to you. Bold move benching Debo over Jalen. And ESPN says otherwise. They say, you should start Debo by projections. But I like that you think for yourself and you're going off of your intuition. That's what fantasy football is all about. You're thinking for yourself.
Well, yeah, and right. I mean, you have 2 goals every week in this league, and that's the beauty. And I know people hate. We've gotten some complaints, over the years where it's like, oh, I want more roster starts. Can we get a second quarterback roster spot? Can we get, I want more dedicated receivers or 2 dedicated running backs. And the reason why we like this setup, the way that's always been this way, is because you have 2 battles every week that you have to do. Not only do I have to beat the guy across the aisle, I have to make sure I don't beat myself. And I can't leave the points on the bench, and I have to maximize my roster. And so, that's what makes this league great, is that, you really technically have 2 matchups each week. Got to figure out which buttons to push. So,
Popey, that just brought a tear to my eye. I love that. I love that. That's what makes Fantasy Blitz so special. You gotta think a little bit, right? Hey, Popey, real quick, are we able to share the screen one more time? I would like to do, we're a quarter of the way through this season. I'd love to do playoff projections and just kind of take a look at what that looks like. That'd be maybe interesting to see a quarter through the season. What does the playoff projected bracket look like right now?
Yeah, no problem. Let's take a look there at the projected playoff bracket. Obviously, very fluid, but we know the top 8 get there. We have our 2 number 1 seeds, Cooper Troopers, and then of course Guardians, coming out of their respective division winners.
Yep.
And so right now at the moment, some interesting matchups for sure. Again, Bart's team is turning on a little bit here. TJ is, if you ask most people, I know you had good thoughts about TJ's team ahead of time.
Yeah, week one rematch with Team Rant in the Vatican, which was a 1-point game. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And of course, as a reminder, like if you hear this, you'll, yes, why do these teams have 4 points, Chuck? Because there is home field advantage in Fantasy Blitz. And so you, to be the man, you need to beat the man. And, that's why every regular season game counts. Seeding is important as we, the further we go along as the season goes along. So any other final thoughts here? Or if you're
Champ Samson, to be the man, you got to beat the woman in Cooper Troopers.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's boy, what a fun matchup that would be for 1-8. What a treat that would be. That's like our opening round salvo.
That was my preseason Super Bowl. Wow, round 1. Wow, that's like Duke and Kentucky meeting in the first round.
I know. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I love that characterization there. So, unfortunately, Chuck and I would love with you guys about Fantasy Blitz all day long, but last I checked, I'm not independently wealthy yet. We got to earn that check. We got to get that money. All right, guys. Have a great week. Good luck this weekend. We'll check you soon.